allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as is required by Chapter 271, Public Law 1975, with respect to the Home News Tribune to publish the same. This announcement must be entered into the minutes of this meeting. For those attending today, please be aware that all board meetings are recorded via audio. Roll call, Maria.
Chairman Engel?
Here.
Commissioner John?
Present.
Commissioner Katz?
Here.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
Present.
Commissioner Benjavenga?
Here.
Commissioner Snyder?
Adoption of the minutes from August 1st. Board meeting.
Well, I had put in a couple of corrections, but apparently Thomas sent them out there. I don't think there should be any issues about them. If you want me to explain the corrections?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, the first correction was just that last time we had issues about the disability certificate and disability requirements. So we sent it all to the AG to get an opinion, and the minutes just said we sent it on a disability form. So I just said also that they clarify the authority of the poll clerks to ask questions of the voter so they can determine if the voter qualifies for assistance and perspective. It's just, we sent it all to the AG to get a response. It's just amplifying what we sent. And that's the second one was just on the early, it's just a mechanical one. Early voting challengers. This says, Commissioner Katz stated the board should discuss and agree on the number of challenges required for early voting. I just said it shouldn't be required, but it should say allowed for early challengers, not rather required. It's not a requirement. And we were, it says, after further discussion, the board agreed to postpone the item until, and it says in the minutes, after the election, November general election, it was until the next meeting. So that was the thing. And the final thing was on the overage polling place change. The minutes presently say the board requested that approval be obtained by both party chairs before a vote is taken. We make the decision. It's not a question of the municipal chairs approving it. So we get their comments and opinions before we do it, so we know what we want to do. So I just said you change approval to comments/opinions. Those are the. So if you accept that, I'm going to move it as I proposed in the amendment.
Do you have a motion to accept? Second?
Discussion?
John, you want to second?
Well, I moved it. Second.
Second, oh, you can second, okay.
So-
Roll call,
You
Maria.
moved.
Well, before that, I'd like to discuss, I just want to understand the necessity for the change in the, I guess the first issue to say as per the statute.
It's just describing what we asked the Attorney General to look at. We have no idea what they're going to come back with, but we asked them for more than just telling us about the disability certificate. So it's just a question of, because we had disagreements about both, not only have disagreements, we may have different opinions about what should be in the disability certificate, and but we definitely had a disagreement as to what the poll clerks could do.
Right.
So that's what I'm just saying. We just sent it to the Attorney General to give us comments about both.
Right, I agree with that, but I guess my issue was with the statement as per statute. Like,
Well,
I don't want to limit, my understanding is that we weren't limiting them, we were asking them for their open determination of this, and I think that kind of assumes much. I don't know,
I don't care whether we take out the word statute. I just wanted to, all we're doing is saying, we asked the Attorney General to look at the form and what the poll clerks could do.
I agree with that.
You can do that, that's fine, I don't care.
Okay.
Just want to be, okay.
Okay, Maria, roll call.
Okay, Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner John?
Yes.
Commissioner Katz?
Yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
Are we voting? I had a comment on another item.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
What are the items? Oh, okay.
On his three, I apologize. right? We're still talking about his, on
Yes.
a minute, so I had my hand up, right. I just, we are going to wait until both chairs, let me finish. Agree or approve.
No,
So
we don't
yes,
have them approved.
Yes, we do,
No,
they have to say,
What we-
are you gonna tell them to change the language in their letter to only read, I agree with what
No,
you said?
this, by the way, this concept goes back to a time where I said, I'm not gonna vote on polling place changes unless I know what the people in the towns, both parties in the towns, whether they like what's being proposed or not. And then once I do that, then we can vote on it. So that was the concept. But it is our decision, so it's
Everybody
our
understands
approval.
that.
So we want to get whatever their comments are before we do that.
So they can approve what the decision is. I have no problem with the word approve. There's no definition of approve that takes away any of our approval of the original site. So I leave it up to everyone.
It's not,
I
it's,
just think it's, I don't like it being, reading so openly, that's all. Comments? No. They're approving.
I don't care.
Good.
I use comments and opinions because we are the approving authority.
And
So I didn't want the word approving there because we are the approving authority and they're not. And that sort of implies that they are. So that's why I put in the other words, because I think it's more appropriate for what we actually do. That's all.
I don't.
I
I
never-
just
I
wanted
never
the
thought it was
original
gonna-
reading of it, that's all.
So what are we gonna do? We're gonna decide.
You're gonna go with the lawyer or the English teacher?
Thank you.
That's a tough one.
It's true.
It's September, I'm going with the teacher.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And we're gonna leave
So
approval
just
in?
for,
Yes, we're leaving approval.
and just for
Donna, it's
clarity,
okay with you?
Yes,
the motion on the table does include removing of per statute to allow.
Yes.
that-
Yes.
Yes, yes.
thank you.
So it's,
No,
make sure you, Maria, it's, on the Tom sent out, it's the same thing with taking off as per statute, whatever it is. Second is there, and the third
comments on the
is
table.
not there.
And maybe, can I request a compromise on the first one? For the teacher and the lawyer? Request, that we request approval, not that we receive it. Is that okay,
That's lovely.
Mr. Katz? Because requesting approval is fine, once we request it, should we not receive it, we don't receive it? and we
Well,
can
it
do whatever we want.
already says that. It says the board requested that approval.
I'm reading the minutes.
Yeah,
What the minutes say is, the board requested that approval be obtained.
so what do you want to change it to?
Change obtained to requested. Or sought. In other words, it doesn't have to be obtained.
Well, no.
Because they're not the approving authority.
No, but
Correct.
the important thing is that, for my purposes, is I want some response back from both of them.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So it's not just requested. I want, even if someone made a phone call to the Democratic Republican chair in X town, I want, and they didn't answer it, I just want an answer from them. Do you have a problem with it, or are you happy with it? That's all. That was, so I don't,
We're good.
you got it?
Yeah. We're good. Excellent.
Now we take a roll call.
Chairman Engel?
Yeah.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Cavanaugh?
Yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Montalto? Commissioner
Yes.
Romero? Sorry. Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
She just exercised.
All right, old business, early voting challenge.
All right, so just based off of the last meeting with the commissioners, I think there was a consensus in terms of the changes to the existing policy with everything else remaining the same, but the two changes that was sought and we kind of incorporated would be that all candidates would be credentialed entering into an early voting location to be challengers during early voting. And that if you had candidates and appointed challengers in an early voting site, that we wouldn't ask either the candidate or the challengers to be removed from the location. We would allow the candidates who are credentialed and the challengers to remain in the location.
I move that we've had several versions of this that came in the last 2 days. The very last version is what's in our packet here now, and it's acceptable to me, and I move we adopt it.
Can we have a second? Early voting challengers?
And just to make it very clear, this is not a partisan thing. All I was concerned about is clarity, so everybody knew exactly what the rule was that we were following, whatever that was.
Scott, look at the second bullet. You like the line?
Oh, it's not this one?
No, it's one.
Oh, boy.
It's this one, it's this one.
Got it.
I'm looking, it's not, I'm looking at.
Oh, so when we got
Yes,
email?
yes.
This one.
Okay.
Draft-EV challenger policy.
Thank God, what is it?
No, you know what, I got that email, and I thought that was different.
Okay.
Well, there was one in the email, but there was an earlier one that had the same title that was not the latest. If you printed it before,
And that's why I
if you
thought it
printed
was
it this
here.
morning, it's not the last
Okay.
version.
As an aside, may I ask why none of the comments I had made originally about grammatical errors was not addressed? Agreement, both in the articles and pronouns and et cetera. It irks me. I'm sure it reads plainly, but if someone mentions it, I would hope that it could be changed to the proper.
I'm okay with the language.
On the second bullet?
Got a second?
Okay.
It's a little awkward, but
Commissioner
I'm,
Schneider?
yeah, I'm okay with it.
Your second?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay.
What do you say?
Approval of this, I think.
Approval of the policy.
Yeah.
With grammatical changes, maybe.
Or even, where the second quotation marks in the first bullet? You know, little things. Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
But I sent it
They're not
second.
done talking.
Chairman Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Jello,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz,
Think so. Yes.
Mr. Galais, sir?
Commissioner Benjamin,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Let's move on. Disability certification.
Yeah, just an item, old business from the last, again, per the discussion about the minutes, again, submitted to the Deputy AG regarding request for clarification from some of the questions that the commissioners had. Had another conversation on Monday about when that would be forthcoming. It is forthcoming, but as you guys are well aware, nothing in front of you right now. So requested that it would be sent prior to the October board meeting, well enough in advance for commissioners to be able to review and discuss.
Okay. Old Bridge polling location.
Yes, so just again, per the last meeting, we reached out to the clerk and both chairs, heard back from both the Democratic chair and the municipal clerk that they wish to table the discussion of moving the polling location until 2025.
So they don't want to do it.
They don't want to do
I
it.
don't want to.
Good reason we tried for it.
Yeah. That's good.
So I don't think, we didn't bring a motion, so we don't
We
have
don't have to vote on that.
Okay.
Ballot discretion.
Same thing as a disability certificate, again, post the meeting. Last time earlier, even the previous meeting to that, request for clarification from the AG regarding ballot discretion in terms of ballot adjudication. Again, discussion on Monday about when that would be forthcoming. It is forthcoming, it's being reviewed, and should be available for commissioners to review prior to the October board meeting.
Is this the circle in the square already?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to new business. Candidates, family members, and co-workers.
Yeah, just, again, just thought it'd be better to put in front of the commissioners formally. The board had used a letter to municipal clerks and to poll workers regarding candidates or family members working as poll workers within a polling location or polling district. The letter that was used by staff was based off of a 2017 letter prepared by my predecessor. There's, I guess, vague references and minutes to some sort of discussion at that particular time, but nothing adopted formally in terms of proposal. What is before you is just really, again, suggestions from Commissioner Katz in terms of that language, that candidates who are on the ballot and their immediate family members, i.e., as described, spouses, children, and parents would not be able to work in a district or polling locations where that candidate's name appears on the ballot. And that for early voting, as again for anyone, I mean, if you were on the ballot anywhere in Middlesex County, you were on every voting machine in Middlesex County, so that would preclude you from being an early voting poll worker, which we encountered during the Republican committee members for county committee running during the primary. So that's just for clarification, and just as, and again, since policy is just outlining candidates when they can, and again, I know there may be reference when they can, but I'll just, again, I'll just leave the rest of the commissioners. If you approve of that letter, we'll use that formally moving forward.
Any discussion?
Yes, we have had a policy for some time, 15, 18 years or something, and we brought it up because we had elected officials who wanted to be a poll worker. And we specifically adopted a policy that said elected officials who were not up for running for election, they were not on the ballot, and of course their families, etc., could be poll clerks. That has been in place since at least, say, 2010. I don't know the exact year. And we need to put that in writing in here so that our staff knows what the requirements are, because as recently, and the first time I realized this was not happening is when when a councilman told me that his wife was told she couldn't work because he was a councilman. And I said, that's not right. That's how it came up. So we have to put it into our policy, what is already adopted. We don't have to approve anything further on that because it's already adopted. Because I want to make sure our staff does what we have approved. So this is not right unless you put that line in.
Any other further discussion?
I agree with Don with that. If we've been doing it for the past how many years, it should be clarified. It should be someplace at the poll, whoever's, poll worker coordinators know that.
Do you want to put that in the form of a motion, John?
Well, I don't know if we need a motion on that.
Well, I don't know if, I think Tom might want us to approve the whole form.
Are we to vote on this, Tom?
I mean, I just, based on the back and forth, I thought it'd be better just to get you on the record approving the language, considering there was.
Do you have any objection to adding a fourth bullet that says there's no prohibition for a candidate,
An elected official.
there's no prohibition for an elected official or an elected official's family who is not appearing on the ballot to work as a district poll?
No, I don't, and again, I only made corrections to the letter based off of the template that was used since 2015, so again,
There's
I don't
nothing
oppose any
substantively,
change.
there's certainly nothing substantively misleading or wrong about the language in this letter, but it would be more clarifying to add one more
And that would be
I
fine.
think that's great. I support that concept.
Okay.
Absolutely, Dana.
That's what we have an issue.
Did you hear the suggestion? Did you hear the suggestion?
No.
I was just thinking of an exception. What if they're in different parties during the primary?
What if what?
Why wouldn't I be allowed to work?
But what do you mean?
If my child is a Republican candidate, in the
No.
primary, why wouldn't I be allowed to work?
Because just because you're declared Democrat doesn't mean that
I guess it's an appearance of a conflict.
To assume that the bias still exists, even if it's cross-party?
Yes.
Fair enough.
Okay, but the suggestion was to
I'm sorry.
Stick with the parts.
Add the bullet point, right? That's what you're saying?
You don't want to
This
change.
one's entirely too young to run for office, just so we're
Well,
clear.
I defer to Commissioner Cass. Do you think we need do you want me to make the change based on the discussion we had, or do you want to formally adopt it as?
Oh, no,
as
I think we should add the bullet point there, and so we have so you can give to every one of our staff that does this, something that's
Yeah, that's fine.
complete.
I got no
Okay.
issue with it if you want to put that in.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
so do we need, so you want,
You want it in the form of
Okay.
Defer to you if you want to
so
make a
you
formal.
added the bullet point that I just said?
No, we'll just call it the no prohibition bullet point.
No that's fine, as long as it's in black and white so everybody understands, that's fine.
Or whatever color they choose to print it in.
Or whatever, yes, if you have used a color printer and you have it titled. All right,
Okay, we're not gonna make a motion.
so I'll move that we approve that policy, including the reference to elected officials allowing to be pollers, or not being prohibited from being pollers,
And
if they're not running.
add a second,
Second.
Commissioner
Tom?
Moskowitz.
Tom, after we adopt this, you just give us so that it's complete.
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Jello?
No.
Commissioner Katz?
Yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Benjaminga?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Administration reports. Steve?
I'm going to jump around a little bit. Because my staff is actually out setting up for the poll worker training, again, we started poll worker training. It's a great place. I do like doing it there. I feel like we cover a lot of people. It's very, very nice and professional. Probably the best place we've ever gone to. It's great. So that's already started, just so you know. We were doing the final checks on the back of the voting machines. We kind of do that a couple of times to make sure everything's in there that we want for the election, the upcoming election. We're printing key envelopes. We're checking machine tags. You know, they're basically shipping labels to make sure that they're going to the right polling place. We check that off of our key list. What else we got? Quality control on the poll books. We're working on that. Poll book maintenance, and then we just got in as of today. We just got in the rest of our A-frames. We're going to try and change those so that they are all proper as far as the language is concerned. And we'll do our best to get all those out. That's about all I got.
Okay,
Is Shalonda, are you covered for Linda?
I guess so.
Because I have your comments that like this, which
I wasn't prepared for this, but okay.
You don't have to look like a deer in the headlights. If you don't know, we get it later. In terms of the dates we have, it talks about the challenges are due October 22nd, that's regular challengers. Do we have a date that the challenges are due for early voting challengers? If you can find that, you can get it. Just do that. I don't need it at this moment, just people should know that. All right, I know the calendar.
No, I just wanted to add it from here if we had it.
Oh, yes, if you had it, yeah. But also on the calendar that Linda provided, it has hearing dates. And I think we might want to have the commissioners just to make sure that there's no unavoidable conflict on it. But I know one thing that I looked at initially was on election day, we have hearing. And we decided prior to the June primary that we're not going to have an extended hearing on challenge ballots and signatures on election day because that keeps the commissioners from dealing with election day questions, issues, and such. So we had that in the primary, we moved that to a different day. So we shouldn't have that on election day. The other stuff, the other dates that are listed for my purposes, I can accommodate it, but it depends on the rest of the
Commissioner, if I could make a clarification and then maybe a suggestion, is that, again, as you noticed, in order to kind of reduce that load, we had put some hearings after mail-in ballot reviews for the 23rd and 30th. So that for that hearing on election day, which in past would encompass all mail-in ballot challenges and kind of signatures to start with, it would be from 10:29 to 11:05, which would be a smaller universe. However, if you didn't want to do it on election day, I would suggest then that it would be done, what do you think, Sharon, like the day after, or like on the 7th?
Yeah, the day after.
day after, that way we could still, because again, for the cure letters, we still want to be able to get out, you know, those letters and, you know, again, confirm with you the signature. So again, I'm fine, I just wanted to make you aware of that, and again, if you do want to do it the following day, I think that would work.
You just said the 7th, Tom, that's Thursday?
It would be,
Tuesday,
I
Thursday,
mean,
No, he asked if it was.
the 6th or
the
7th, I asked Sharonda if she
Yeah.
thought which day
I,
would be
I
better.
would think the 6th, the day after.
However it works, that would be fine, for my purposes.
All right.
Can't we play it by ear?
Yeah,
Ballots are coming in?
I don't know that
And if we're,
We already-
we not being here on election day.
No, we want to
Oh,
be
no,
here
we'll
on
be here on
election
election
day.
day. He's
But
just
if we're
saying-
sitting here all day, looking at, comparing signatures or other things on the question ballots, we can't respond to election day issues or questions, et cetera, because we're sitting here doing this.
well, may I interrupt you? Last
We already
year,
agreed, by the way, we had already agreed this, and we changed it in the primary. It's just popped back here now, so I'm just saying it's on the wrong day, that's all. It's
but
not
last
it.
year, because we did not have many issues, I know that commissioners were in fact leaving and coming back and forth. I'd rather set it up on the day and take care of it than get another day.
And Don, did we have, sorry.
No, I apologize, I have something in my eye,
Aw.
so you have to excuse me.
And Tom, you put the extra hearings ahead of time in October, so we will have less.
You would have less to do on election day than you normally do, because at least for the last couple of years, we've kind of had everything on election day in terms of signature review. So you would have less if we did those hearings prior.
I mean, could we kind of just play it by ear that day? I don't know how that would work.
But then we would
Just
need to
saying.
have another day set up right afterwards to
Yeah,
cover.
in case we don't finish.
Yeah, I just, the other thing I would say is that if you're gonna have hearings prior to election day on signatures, then the process of how we do that's gonna have to change. Because it is often clear to, and I'm not saying that any of us would be biased, but, you know, none of us are here by accident. And party affiliation is clearly viewable when they scan in and pull up the voter's profile. I don't think prior to election day, that is, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter prior or post.
It's the
I just
same.
like that change so we can't see that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I mean, if we're not gonna have a hearing, are we at least going to be doing, looking at, flag ballots in teams? Or are we not doing that either?
Which balance? Which balance are you talking
Flag ballots?
Well, that could still happen post-election as well.
There's just gonna be a lot of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
potentially would be.
I would think with the
Depending
amount
on,
of,
yeah, regardless of what the AG's opinion is, I mean, regarding just the ballots that you could review, post-election in terms of adjudication would be a good amount.
significant.
Yeah.
How many calls do you get on election day from somebody who's an issue?
You have a comment, Commissioner Beth?
I was responding to the concepts, the question was, do you really need to be free on election day? And my question was, I don't know about any other commissioner, my comment is, I don't know about any other commissioners, but I receive lots of calls on election days with questions or issues, et cetera. And I also want to know those issues and things that are called directly into the office, so that as commissioners, we can respond to those as well. If we're sitting here looking at signatures or otherwise, we're not available to do that.
But then we're gonna be sitting here a lot all day doing nothing. Where maybe we could fill in some of that nothing time with, okay, somebody has a problem, you have to step out, maybe we could recess during that time.
Commissioner Della?
And I like how it's set up just for, or because there's previous hearings, that it would be, a substantially less amount of ballots and signatures to review, because it's only from the period of 10/29 to 11/5 as opposed to the entire term. I like the idea of keeping it on And if for some reason, you know, we have a very difficult day, we have a backup date already scheduled here, maybe put that 7th as tentative. And that way we can kind of call it as needed.
I would also point out that, to bolster your point, I don't know how prudent it is for commissioners, you know, our authority is to vote as one of a board of 6. We don't get to make arbitrary decisions, or arbitrary is not the right word.
Unilateral?
Unilateral, thank you, decisions at polling locations or what's happening because we got a phone call. Those things should be left up to the staff that, as a board, we hire, and to the whole board if it rises to that level. Certainly, if there's something that we want to have 2 members sent out on, that's fine. But I would just say that, you know, to some degree, candidly, I can't remember in the last couple of years I've been doing this, I've played much of that role.
Ask a question.
Scott,
Never reviewed it as
if
well.
we've gone out on election, Scott, if we've gone out on election day on an issue, it's been a Republican and Democratic commissioner have gone out. It's a question of more things that come, that
I mean, I'm
come
gonna
in here.
disagree with you because I believe that you yourself were out at polling locations during the primary by
It was
yourself.
early voting.
Okay, early voting. You didn't have one of the 3 of us with you. I myself went to polling locations on election day pro tem. I did not have a Republican commissioner with me, right? So I don't think that's how we should be operating necessarily.
I agree.
But by going around and doing those, like, when you wanna say visits, we find out certain problems, like you did, you know.
Of course, but you call those in, right? Like, I don't know that I think to some degree, stopping in and seeing what was happening and reporting back and having somebody else try to get a solution going is one thing. In hindsight, I don't know that my presence there was not more disruptive than it was solvent, or another word that means something like that. They don't know about getting the solutions, so I started more problem,
I
right?
think that.
Now, when you showed up, problem got solved, right? I didn't solve that problem.
Right,
Who
so-
called,
and
who
I-
called him about the problem?
Nobody.
Nobody.
I was just
All right.
my, I
We're
was,
have
still
to-
talking about
my job
the-
was to be there all day.
I
And
have-
I went
I have-
periodically from one polling place to another. I happened to roll in and there he was.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think the risk of a comment that we make at a polling place, you know, other than to be there to observe, document, or make sure it goes right, has the risk of seeing that it has the full support, the full force of the entire board as opposed to one of our individual decisions. And so we should, you know, seek to be careful and mindful of that, you know, when we go out. I think another part and parcel to that, to the statements that we're making, I believe this is more of our job, more of our mandate to meet as a body and make these decisions as to, you know, reviewing the ballots and reviewing the signatures. That's more of our job. And I think to have that scheduled on election day is efficient and prudent. And I think that the way that it's laid out here with dates before that to do it, it actually, you know, lessens the time that we have to be here. So I would, you know, make a motion to approve this calendar with the dates as is, barring any other dates that don't work for commissioners. And yes, putting in a tentative, you know, backup date for the 7th in case, you know, we've all been there on election day where, you know, nothing worked and, you know, the sky fell and you know, should that happen, then I would understand if we say, hey, we're not gonna have a hearing today, we're gonna put it on the 7th. And so putting that on the calendar is probably a good idea.
If I could add one
Yeah.
thing, and again, I like adding as much flexibility into the calendar, whether it's counting or commissioner, because again, you could always say we don't need to meet or whatever the case may be, just adding more. But a good point that Sharonda made that she whispered to me as you guys were talking was that we do have a ballot review on election day for all ballots received, and again, in a short period, like we were saying, that would have to be heard on election day if there are any challenges to mail a ballot. So I would like to maybe keep the election day. It doesn't necessarily have to be an elongated meeting as you guys were describing. We can add a meeting for the following day if there's any cleanup, or if you want to have most of the signatures, which do occupy a preponderance of the time in terms of review, for the following day be able to do and just do the basic.
Thank you, that's helpful. I wasn't quite finished though, so let me just conclude. And I was gonna ask you questions. Hearings have to be noticed, right?
Yes.
So it's easier to remove or reschedule a date than it is to schedule it last minute, is that correct?
Yes.
Accordingly, then, I suggest we keep it on here so that we don't have to, because we would be unable to add the date at the
Right.
last
No,
minute.
we have always advertised for a meeting that could run all of election day,
Yeah.
right? So that we have the flexibility to legally meet and make decisions on election day. And I think we should continue to do that. But whether we should actually physically do all of that, it's going to depend, as long as we have a backup date on that too.
Right, but a hearing has a notice for a specific time, so that people can be here and
How do we
observe.
do that?
No,
No?
I think he's right, we do notice for the whole day. Yeah.
Even when we have a hearing on that day?
Yeah.
So how does the public know what time we're actually going to have the hearing?
Oh, well, sorry.
Starts at 2 p.m.
I think they call up and say, when are you actually meeting? Because I know we've had some people here.
We used to do it at 5, right? We used to
No,
do it-
election day has always been
2.
2 p.m.
No, in the afternoon,
Yeah.
we used to do
Two
it.
until 8
So it's
p.m.
no, but it's not noticed at 2?
It's noticed at
Noticed
2.
at
Oh, okay, that's what I think that's what I
It's
was.
noticed all day, I guess it's noticed all day and at 2.
Starting at 2 until 8 p.m.
Okay,
It
Until-
starts at
until
2 until 8 p.m.
fair enough.
You mean we can't make decisions before 2 o'clock?
Not fun.
We do only need, I think, 4 commissioners to go through signatures, so.
Yeah, so two.
If you wanna go, though.
I'll go as long as one Democrat also leaves.
Ron, is there anything else on your report?
Oh, I do. I have another question that comes under there, if I may. What's in progress this is under Linda's report, including the progress including debt lists. Are we getting debt lists promptly? The reason I asked that is I was recently contacted by someone who knew someone died in May in Middlesex County. They didn't die outside of they were registered here. And beginning of September, they were still registered until we did contact them. So it was 3 or 4 months. We're supposed to get these things promptly. I think it's supposed to be like every month we did things. Are we getting this?
Tom had a meeting with the team,
Yeah,
right?
we had a meeting with the team. The clerks are being notified to provide their latest updated lists next week, so that we have, again, from their last reports. Some municipalities provide it once a month or every other month,
Right.
but we're asking for it next week from their last reports so we can process those. We do have some existing ones that we're going through, so again, we kind of broke out the team in a couple of compartments to be able to get through those lists. And again, we will ask for it again prior to the first stripping of the certificates so that we can finish anyone that is up until that point before we actually start tearing
I'm
certificates.
happy for that for this election, but on a regular basis, we should be getting it on a
We've made I'd say the municipalities have made improvements in terms of when they provide that list. Some were very, I wouldn't say lax, but it did come in frequently. We've tried to get them on a better schedule in terms of providing that to the board.
If you have a name, you can always
Yeah.
look it up
I
for
know,
the research.
And we've also worked with the Middlesex County Surrogate's Office, been very for help on providing their list, as well as, again, we relied on public records that were provided to the office in terms of death records from 2020.
Yeah, there's a social
on
security
board
debt list, which we
kind of-
don't specifically have access to. But if we finally get on Eric, then we would have access to that as part of the security.
Mhm.
It's another story. Okay.
Anything else on the business report? No? Okay, let's move on to administrators.
So it was alluded to, poll worker training started last Friday. Again, that's the earliest we've ever started poll worker training. We requested lists from clerks, municipal chairs, as well as their own poll workers to be able to start that training earlier. Our goal is to train poll workers as quickly as we can and front load as much as we can. Because again, as Steve alluded to, the warehouse does a preponderance of the training prior to the election. But again, they get taken away to kind of do poll books and voting machines and early voting. And so again, the end of October becomes a challenging time in terms of doing poll worker training. We will conduct poll worker training for all the way through the Saturday before the election. But again, our focus is going to be on anyone who's provided by a local list that we sent a letter to and communicate to, that we get them trained if they are outside their 2-year window by October 15th. And everyone post the 15th, our new poll workers, our replacement poll workers, or anyone that was not trained prior to 2020, because if you were a poll worker that hasn't worked since 2020, you have not seen the voting machine, you have not seen the poll books, and you might as well be off the street. So again, we've kind of laid a bit in. The facility is great. It's the Education Services Center of New Jersey, large location. So again, we have enough classes, spaces, slots to be able to train everyone 3 times over at that location. So that is the goal. So thank you to Steve and his staff for working through that. And Valerie's been very helpful in terms of that regard with the manual and everything that gets updated. Poll workers, again, I said we kind of had that conversation. Communicated with both, we had a Teams meeting in August with the Democratic and Republican chairs, sent out the information that I just discussed in terms of information regarding their poll workers. Again, we're short in a couple towns, but we're working to fill in some of those slots. And again, we'll work with both our coordinators and the local elected officials to be able to fill those slots.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Just to be safe and secure, who do you have do you have this new chair in Edison?
Yes.
Okay.
So we work with that individual, and they were attempting to recruit, and they asked for our assistance to be able to fill the remainder of the spots. So our staff has kind of jumped in and is now hiring for Edison. Yes. Early voting poll workers, again, provided a list to the county chairman, again, of our early voting sites, received some feedback, incorporated those minor adjustments, and that's been going very well. 26 Kennedy, again, something that we've been really extremely focused on is just security for this upcoming election, both physically in terms of cybersecurity. So went with the Office of Emergency Management in terms of physical safety to the building. Again, there are things that we've incorporated since we've actually moved here in terms of security, and then there are things that we are going to have in place prior to the election that was approved by the state to be installed. I won't get into specific details, but it's in terms of hardening the office and the building itself. The board, Middlesex County, participated in a tabletop exercise with the state in terms of security, both physical and cyber, in terms of, again, just planning out, game planning in terms of our continuing of operation plans. Again, in case something were to happen during an election or during early voting, that we'd be able to, again, lay out procedures to be able to adjust if something were to happen, both big and small.
And who attended this?
I attended along with OEM, county clerk's office,
Nobody
or
from the
IT.
office? Just you from here?
Just myself.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, share the information with staff, and again, a lot of it is in our continuing of operation plan in terms of how we would handle things. And then just for the good of the board, got some recognition here. We got some people that are on anniversaries. Valerie Henry has been with the board for 5 years. Benjamin Comerford, who works in our warehouse, great individual, has been here 10 years. Angela Ramos works in our main office, does poll worker recruitment and a lot of other things in the office, has been here 15 years. Some individual named Donald Katz has been here 20 years.
Oh my God. That's dangerous.
And Linda.
And finally, our chief clerk, Linda Plugi, who can be here tonight. She had a previous commitment, has been here 30 years.
Oh, there you go. Linda, wherever you are.
Sorry, I'm really excited.
Okay. Commissioner comments? Commissioner comments?
I've had enough
Public comments?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Charlie Cradaville from New Brunswick, editor of New Brunswick Today. I'm going to follow up on comments I made previously, but I'll start by saying congratulations to all of the work anniversary folks, and thank you for your service. I have 2 documents to share with you, so I'll just give this to Mr. Snyder. We can take one and pass it down with each. And I am following up on our discussion about the transparency of the election results. So I know prior to the primary, or maybe it was right after the primary, we spoke about getting the results to be clear and transparent. I raised some concerns about a new state law that is meant to protect voter privacy and handle situations where there's a low number of total votes cast. You can see New Brunswick, you can see how many people voted in the Democratic primary, how many people voted in the Republican primary, but then when you look for the breakdown by district, we see that some of these districts are just left blank. They're redacted. And so if I recall correctly, Mr. Snyder, you said something to the effect of the new law will increase transparency and you'll be able to see more than you used to see as a result. And I held out hope that I was wrong about this, but
You are. That's okay.
please enlighten me. I used to be able to get the results for election day votes for every district. Well, now I can't, right?
Well, if the numbers are so low that you would know who voted for whom, then you would pierce the secrecy of the ballot, and you'd be violating somebody's constitutional right. And so it's redacted. But what you know that you didn't know before is where vote by mails were cast, in what districts. That you didn't know before. That was the increased transparency in the bill. I mean, I think there's no real arguing that you shouldn't know how somebody voted.
Okay, so in my district, I live in Ward 2, District 1, there were 11 Democrats who voted and 4 Republicans who voted. Looking at the Democratic results here on the other page, I can't find out how many people in my district voted for Larry Ham, or Andy Kim, or Patricia Campos Medina. 11 people voted. I think it's unlikely that all 11 voted the same exact way, which if so, then yes. You'd be able to conclude that every one of those 11 Democratic voters voted for that candidate. But I don't think that's the case here. I think the reason that these are redacted is because the Secretary of State's office issued guidance on this new law that arbitrarily set the number at 14 and said any category of vote result, whether it's mail-in votes in Ward 2, District 1, or election day votes in Ward 5, District 7, would be redacted automatically regardless of whether the results actually would reveal anybody's vote. So I think that is a very poor way to approach it, and I think that the end result is less transparency, less integrity, and less confidence in the system. I went out and knocked on doors in my district. I'm not ashamed to say it. I endorsed Larry Ham, I endorsed John Shue, so I knocked on my neighbors' doors and I tried to get them to vote for the candidates that I supported, but I can't tell how many of them actually did. I only know that 11 Democrats showed up, and the results are a secret. And so that is a step way backwards in terms of transparency.
But that wasn't a
because
legislative
results
step.
are the thing that, yes, sir?
That wasn't a legislative step, that was the Secretary of State choosing the number 14 to represent what that office felt was the lowest number. So that has nothing to do with the legislation, that has to do with the administration, the
Right,
bureaucracy, so
right,
that's.
right. And I'm setting the record straight that this new law, as implemented and administered, is resulting in less transparency when it comes to election results. And that's of great concern to me. Maybe I'm the only one, but I think that being able to access district-level election results is a very important way for people who are trying to win elections to analyze where to focus on. And if, a significant number of the districts don't have any results, you can't really see how you're doing, see how things are going. And as somebody who, tries to keep an eye on political trends, this is not unworkable, right? It's unfair to say that my neighborhood doesn't have enough voter participation for us to have access to the results, right? In fact,
Did you ask those people? I mean, getting the results of the numbers of votes is either going to say, yes, the people whose doors you knocked on which you knocked, voted the way you asked, or did not.
I'm not asking for individual results. I'm asking for the collective results for my district.
It's a small number, and by coming up with small numbers, it's much more, it's easier for you to determine. That's why it's active. You're not running for office, are you?
No, I'm not right now, but I do, I am active in every election. You're gonna see me, you're gonna continue to see me at these meetings.
Yes.
And I think that this is a very troubling step. And I know people can come to the meetings speaking about transparency, asking for more transparency. I've certainly done it. I like to think that some of the board members support that cause generally. And I'm raising to you that if you think this new law is resulting in more transparency, you're sadly mistaken.
Transparency of what exactly?
The results. Who is voting for whom? And let's just get
We have to tell you who's voting for whom? That's what he just said.
At the district level, for hundreds of years, for decades, let's say, maybe not.
Charlie, your time is up, you can come back.
May I just wrap up with one final point? I brought this up so many times that NJSA 19:4-13, 14, 15 all deal with changing the boundaries of the election districts. And if you read those laws, you'll see that most of these districts are too small. And as a result, we're not getting to look at the results because you've made districts that are illegally too small. And if you followed the law, you would be changing the district boundaries.
Okay.
That's my remarks. Unfortunately, I have to get going, but it was great to see everyone.
Unfortunately, we can't help you.